I played every Super Smash Bros. Game. Here's my thoughts. I don't even know if Super Smash Bros. Really needs any introduction. This game series is a huge series of party fighting games featuring an incredibly expansive roster of characters from all across the gaming landscape. Before I get to that though, let me thank you all so much for your support. This is the first video of this year and I've got all kinds of great stuff on the way. This video took a little bit longer than expected, but I hope you think it was worth it. Please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel if you like stuff like this and want to see more. It really does go a long way to help. So let me get this out of the way first. The music in this entire series is incredible. So many composers and so many great franchises throughout gaming history are represented in these games, and I could probably make an entire video over just the music in Super Smash Bros. But with that out of the way, let's get into the games. Super Smash Bros. Was released for the Nintendo 64 in 1999. Here's a quick explanation for how Super Smash Bros. Works. You choose a character to play versus either other players, CPUs, or a mixture of the two. You choose a stage to play on, and then the battle begins. From there, you begin at 0% damage. You don't have HP in these games, unless you're playing the HP mode, but I'll get to that. As you take damage and your damage percentage increases, you become increasingly easier to launch. An attack hitting you at 0% damage probably won't do much. That same attack hitting you at 200% damage, you'll probably go flying. If you get launched far enough and you can't recover, you lose a life. That's the gist of it. This applies to every Super Smash Bros. Game going forward. In Super Smash Bros. For the Nintendo 64, your character has a few moves at their disposal. There's standard movement with the ability to jump. Most characters can only do up to a double jump, but some characters like Kirby and Jigglypuff are able to do an extended number of jumps. Pressing the A button uses a standard attack, and holding a direction modifies the standard attack. Holding the joystick to the left or right slightly is called a tilt, and it allows you to do a modified standard attack. Sprinting by double tapping on the analog stick and then attacking does another modified attack. Quickly pressing a direction and holding it while you attack is called a smash attack. Smash attacks increase the power of your attack quite a bit. You can also hold up and down to change the attack's direction too. Pressing the B button uses the character's special attack. Things like Mario's Fireball, Link's Boomerang, and Fox's Blaster are special attacks. Holding the analog stick down uses a secondary special like Mario's Spin or Link's Bomb and Fox's Reflector. Holding and pressing up in the B button does an up special, which is usually a move that gives you even more airtime and recovery, but for some characters it's just another special move. Every stage is based off of a series or a specific game, and the stages are all of varying sizes with varying levels of verticality. The stages also have tons of interactivity, with there always being something there that you can either interact with or be damaged by. Another big part of Super Smash Bros. Is the items. While you're playing, items will randomly drop into the stage. Some items are weapons, some are recovery items, and some are containers holding multiple items. Almost all of them are throwbacks or references to other games too. There's the heart container from The Legend of Zelda, which recovers your damage, the invincibility star, the motion sensor bomb, and tons more. One of the most unpredictable items is the Pokeball. When a Pokeball is thrown, it releases a random Pokemon that damages everyone except for the person who threw it, for the most part. The variety here is insane and a Super Smash Bros. Staple. That's the basics of Super Smash Bros., and while there are way more technical strategies you can employ in these games, that's more than I could ever hope to cover in one video. But that's the basic gameplay of every Super Smash Bros. Game. For future games, I'll only point out really big additions and changes. The initial playable characters in Super Smash Bros. For the Nintendo 64 are Mario, Donkey Kong, Link, Samus, Yoshi, Kirby, Fox, and Pikachu. Fulfilling certain requirements allows you to battle 4 additional characters, and if you beat them, you unlock them. These characters are Luigi, Ness, Jigglypuff, and Captain Falcon. The stages in this game are Peach's Castle, Congo Jungle, Hyrule Castle, Planet Zebes, Yoshi's Island, Dreamland, Sector Z, Saffron City, and an unlockable Mushroom Kingdom stage. Super Smash Bros. Has multiple modes in each menu. In the single-player menu, there's one-player game, training mode, and the bonus practices. The one-player game mode is an arcade-style mode where you go through a series of fights as your chosen character. You're able to choose how many lives you have along with the level of difficulty, ranging from very easy to very hard. The route for every character is the same, with a total of 11 fights and an additional 2 bonus stages. Some fights are one-on-one, while others involve multiple characters. These fights are also broken down in such a way that their difficulty is scaled to how much of a disadvantage you're at. If there are 2 normal strength enemies, the game will usually give you a CPU ally. If there are 30 enemies and you're by yourself, the enemies will be super easy to launch off the stage. The 2 bonus modes are break the targets and board the platforms. Every character has their own variation of these modes, and each one is designed for that character. In break the targets, the goal is to break 10 targets in the stage as fast as you can. Some targets require you to think a little bit too. Link has a target in his stage that's normally inaccessible, but if you throw a bomb straight up, you can hit it. It's a fun little mode, and surprisingly challenging sometimes. Board the platforms is pretty similar, but instead of breaking targets, you have to test your dexterity by landing on all 10 platforms. If the time runs out or you fall off the stage, you fail and the game continues. There's also a third bonus mode called Race to the Finish, where you have to run past a series of polygon enemies and obstacles to reach the end of the course before the timer runs out. This one's the same for everyone though. Toward the end of the one-player mode, you encounter Metal Mario, who is very difficult to launch because of how heavy he is, and it takes place on a special stage that only shows up here. There's also a fight against a series of enemies called the Fighting Polygon Team, which are very vague semblances of the playable characters. Finally, at the end, you battle Master Hand. Master Hand is a huge enemy that has a set amount of HP that you have to deplete. Master Hand's attacks are incredibly strong and not at all counterable, so you typically have to move around quickly to avoid them. They're pretty much just slaps and punches, but sometimes he also fires missiles at you or does a big pinwheel move that locks you in one spot as it damages you. As Master Hand's HP gets lower and lower, he starts to use more and more aggressive attacks. Once you finally beat him, he disappears into the void and the credits roll. After the credits, you get a nice piece of artwork for the character that you used. These games always have a fun, interactive element in the credits. In this one, you can target any of the moving credits and select them to see a little blurb about them. Training mode for pretty much every game allows you to freely practice using any character and any item on any stage in the game. The bonus practices allow you to practice each character's break the targets and board the platform stage as much as you want. The versus mode menu allows you to change the versus mode parameters along with, playing the versus mode. The main options are time battles, which is a time-limited free-for-all, a stock battle, which is a life or stock-based battle where you can choose the number of lives everyone starts with, time team, a team-based time battle, and stock team, a stock-based team battle. When choosing characters in the versus mode, the game defaults to every character being a human player, but you can toggle them freely to CPUs at any time and select their level, ranging from 1 to 9. The battles are always straightforward battles, but a fun little thing is that if the game is tied after a time battle, there's a sudden death round where everyone starts at 300% damage. It basically turns into a fight to see who can land the first hit. The data menu has a little character gallery where you can look at the backgrounds of every character in the game. It's neat to have, and while it's not anything super fancy, I can't really think of any other Nintendo 64 games with a character guide like this right off the top of my head. A little thing that I couldn't really find a place to mention, every character has multiple costumes, and well, when I say costumes, I mean mostly color palette swaps, but some characters actually have costume differences, like Pikachu and Jigglypuff who get little hats instead. Super Smash Bros. Is a classic. While future games add a ton of content and gameplay variety, this game still holds up even today. In fact, there's still a pretty big community of people who still play this game competitively too. Super Smash Bros. Was the beginning of something really special, and honestly, it's crazy that this game even existed. That being said, it only gets crazier from here. Super Smash Bros. Melee was released for the Nintendo GameCube in 2001. This game was a massive improvement in almost every regard. More characters, more stages, more modes, and more features. This game has a lot, which is wild because it had a relatively short development time. So this game has tons of tiny and minute gameplay changes on top of some big ones, but I'm only going to go over some of the more major gameplay changes here. For starters, this game feels significantly faster than Smash 64. Everyone seems to move faster, recovering and dodging feels faster, and overall, the pace of the matches feels faster. As far as specific changes, every character now has a side special in addition to their standard special. For example, Link's side special is now his boomerang, while his standard special is now his bow. Smash attacks can be charged up to do way more damage now, too. You can do a dodge while mid-air, but at the cost of using any other abilities until you grab an edge or land on solid ground. You can also sidestep, which is just dodging while stationary. There's also new items in the form of recovery food, freezies, the lipstick, and more. Throughout the single-player modes in this game, you'll also randomly find trophies on the ground, and it's always fun going out of your way to grab that extra trophy. The roster of Super Smash Bros. Melee includes everyone from the previous game, but more than doubles the roster. The new characters on the base roster are Bowser, Peach, Ice Climbers, and Zelda/Sheik. The unlockable new characters are Dr. Mario, Ganondorf, Young Link, Falco, Mewtwo, Pichu, Marth, Roy, and Mr. Game & Watch. Interestingly, this game still makes you unlock Jigglypuff and Luigi like Smash 64 did. While every character is unique in their own way, the game did start the trend of what people like to call clone characters. Dr. Mario, Falco, Pichu, Roy, Ganondorf, and Young Link all play incredibly similarly to other characters on the roster. In fact, their movesets are largely the same. They do, however, share balance and minor gameplay differences. This is also the introduction of Zelda and Sheik's transformation mechanic. Zelda and Sheik's down special transforms them into the other character, and both characters have wildly different movesets. Zelda's a slower, magic-focused character, while Sheik is basically basically just a super nimble ninja. Unlocking characters in Melee works similarly to Super Smash Bros. On the Nintendo 64. Completing certain actions in-game or playing a certain number of rounds or for a certain amount of time causes the character to appear in a fight, and if you defeat them, they're unlocked. The stages in Melee are widely expanded too. This game has a ton of modes, so let's dig into them. The modes in Super Smash Bros. Melee are the one-player modes, versus mode, trophies, options, and data. The one-player modes are regular matches, event matches, stadium, and training. The versus modes are Melee, Tournament Melee, Special Melee, Custom Rules, and Name Entry. Regular match includes Classic Mode, Adventure Mode, and when you unlock all characters, All-Star Mode. Classic Mode is one-player mode from Super Smash Bros. 64, but renamed. In fact, all future games will call this mode Classic Mode. It works pretty much the same way. You select a character and you select your difficulty ranging from very easy to very hard. This time though, the fighters you go up against are somewhat randomized. Break the Targets returns along with Race to the Finish. Board the Platforms is completely gone and is instead replaced by a mode called Snag the Trophies. In this mode, 3 trophies fall from the sky and the goal is to hit them into the center bowl to unlock them. Race to the Finish is somewhat different this time though. This time there are multiple exits on a branching path, and the further you can get before the time is up, the more points you earn at the end. At the end of Classic Mode, you fight Master Hand like you did in Super Smash Bros. 64. He has an expanded set of moves, including stuff like lasers. However, if you complete Classic Mode in a certain amount of time on the normal difficulty or higher, halfway into the fight, a second boss called Crazy Hand appears. Crazy Hand is a bit more sporadic than Master Hand, and the moves, at least to me, seem a little bit faster. They also coordinate moves like slapping their hands together to damage you. Clearing Classic Mode unlocks the trophy for the character you're using, along with any other trophies you earn while playing. You also get kind of a short highlight video of the character with a fun little screenshot at the end. Adventure Mode is the secondary single-player mode, and I'd argue it's the most fun one. In this one, rather than just going from fight to fight, you run through a mishmash of worlds from Nintendo's roster. Worlds you run through include Super Mario Bros., Zelda, and even Metroid. There's all kinds of neat nods and references, like in the Metroid level where you're quickly climbing up to the top of a series of platforms Super Metroid style, or trying to run past a bunch of Redeads in the Zelda level. My favorite, though, is actually the F-Zero level where you're sprinting across a live track with F-Zero racers coming in hot, and you have to avoid them at various intervals. What's cool is that you can actually see the race going on in the background as you run by. This mode is super neat, and it's a lot of fun to play with different characters. At one point, you even fight the wireframe fighters, which are really similar to the polygon fighters from Super Smash Bros. 64. At the end of the mode, you fight a giant Bowser. If you complete the mode under a certain time limit on normal difficulty, you then fight Giga Bowser, who is way more powerful and way tougher to beat. Once you beat the mode, the credits roll and it plays out pretty similarly to Classic Mode. What's cool though is that beating Adventure Mode gives you a separate trophy for your character from the Classic Mode trophy. Once you've unlocked every character, you unlock All-Star Mode. All-Star Mode is a survival mode where you select a character and then you fight through 13 battles. The catch is that your damage does not recover between fights. Instead, you have the option to use a limited number of recovery hearts in between every fight, but these recovery hearts don't respawn. Once you've used them, they're gone. Once you complete all the fights, you unlock a trophy for your character in a short video, as is pretty much the norm. A cool note about these modes is that the trophy you get for each mode is different even if you're using the same character. Event Match is an entirely new mode to Melee. When you first start it, you have 10 events to choose from. Each one has a little blurb description and each one has its own different modifiers. Sometimes the event assigns you a character, but sometimes you also have a choice. There's some pretty cool challenges in here. Hide and Seek is a level 9 event, for example, and in this one you fight Zelda and Sheik, but the only time your KOs count is if Sheik is the active character that you KO'd. Another one is a straight up Pokemon battle. You fight Pikachu, but you can't damage each other. The only way to give and receive damage is to throw Pokeballs. As you beat the events, you unlock more and more, and some of them actually get really challenging. There's so much to do here though, and this just adds tons of replay value. Stadium mode includes the Target Test, Home Run Contest, and Multi-Man Melee. Target Test is similar to Super Smash Bros. 64's. Every character has their own target test, and the goal is to smash every target as fast as possible. Home Run Contest is a new mode to Melee and is pretty much a staple to the series going forward. You select a character and you're put on a stage with a sandbag, a bat, and a very long field. The goal is to knock the sandbag as far as you possibly can. The more damage the sandbag takes, the further it'll fly. You also only have 10 seconds to hit it, so this mode gets really challenging and stressful really quick. Some characters are also pretty awful at this mode, and some can't even actually swing the bat properly. Then of course you have some characters who don't need the bat at all. Multi-Man Melee is a mode where you fight a bunch of wireframe enemies, the number varying based on which mode you choose. There's 10-man Melee, 100-man Melee, 3-minute Melee, 15-minute Melee, Endless Melee, and Cruel Melee. These are all pretty self-explanatory, so I'll just briefly explain them. The 10 and 100 man melee have you fight that number of wireframe enemies with no time limit. The 3 and 15 minute melee have you beat as many enemies as you can within the time limit. The endless melee is, well, endless, but there is a trophy reward for beating 100 wireframes. Finally, there's cruel melee. This one puts you up against insanely strong enemies, and I have never been good at this mode. There are strategies out there to beat some enemies, but I just can't do it. The versus modes are melee, tournament melee, special melee, custom rules, and name entry. Melee is the standard 2 to 4 player mode where you can do time, stock, and team battles. There's also now 2 additional modes, coin mode and bonus mode. Coin mode is a mode where every character drops coins when they're hit and you can pick them up. Whoever has the most coins at the end of the match wins. Bonus mode is a standard battle mode, but points are instead awarded at the end based on what you did during the fight. The next versus mode is tournament mode. This one is a straight tournament bracket mode where you can have up to 64 entrants. If you're playing against CPUs, you actually have the option to watch the CPU battles in the bracket, which is pretty neat. Special melee is a mode where you can do some pretty wacky stuff. There's camera mode, stamina mode, super sudden death, giant melee, tiny melee, invisible melee, fixed camera mode, single button mode, lightning melee, and slow-mo melee. I won't go over all of these, but I will touch on a couple. Stamina mode is a mode where instead of increasing the damage percentage, everyone has a set amount of HP. The goal is to reduce everyone else's HP to 0. Super sudden death is a normal battle, but everyone starts at 300% damage. Fixed camera mode keeps the game camera super zoomed out, meaning that you have to pay super close attention to where you are at all times. While these modes aren't what I'd consider main staple modes, they're still a lot of fun and great if you played a lot of melee and want to shake it up. This game also was the first to add name entry, which allows you to set your username in fights, which shows up above your character. This is great for tournaments and just hectic multiplayer matches in general. The trophy modes are gallery, lottery, and collection. Trophies made their debut in Melee and are one of the coolest features Super Smash Bros. Has to offer. You unlock them by doing just about anything in the game, and every single one in the gallery has a whole entry in the trophy menu that tells you a little bit about the character or the series the character is from. Some of them are obvious and easy, while others are pretty deep cuts. You can spend a pretty long time reading up on the trophies, but you can also rotate them and look at them in full 3D and view them at your leisure. In fact, some of them have cool little details and extra stuff that you might not even notice unless you take a good hard look at them. Plus, you can get a look at a couple of characters that show up in later games. The trophy lottery is a more straightforward and direct way to unlock trophies. As you play the game in clear modes, you get coins that you can use in the trophy lottery. You can choose to put 1 or more coins in the machine, which increases your odds of getting a new trophy. Trophy collection allows you to view all of the trophies in the same place on a table. This mode is cool not only because you get a live look at how far along you are in growing your trophy collection, but because there's also a bunch of stuff to look at in the background. In fact, here's a fun bit of trivia. If you change the game's language to Japanese, an extra shelf holding stuff including a Famicom appears. The SNES changes into a Super Famicom, and the artwork for Smash 64 switches over to the Japanese artwork. There's also a couple of other fun little Easter eggs too, like holding down buttons to change how the trophies are arranged. The final stuff I'll talk about in Melee is the data menu. There's snapshots, archives, sound tests, Melee records, and special. Snapshots are where you can view the shots you've taken in snapshot mode. Archives allows you to look at a promotional video and the how to play video. Sound Test lets you listen to any song in the game and all of the voice lines in the game. There's also Melee Records, which lets you look at the game records like matches played, characters used, bonuses you can earn, and more. Super Smash Bros. Melee is timeless and has aged like wine. Everything in Melee is still super fun to do, and I think there's really nothing bad in this game. The community of people still playing Melee to this day is actually massive, and while modern entries in the series are still thriving, lots of people who grew up with Melee still consider it their favorite. Super Smash Bros. Brawl was released for the Wii in 2008. This game was kind of a visual departure from 64 and Melee. Rather than using bright and poppy colors, it went more for a muted, semi-realistic aesthetic. This can probably be attributed to the overall trend of games at the time, but it really has not aged all that well. Some of the characters also got some redesigns, like Link and Zelda getting their Twilight Princess designs, along with some moveset changes. As far as gameplay goes, there are some definite changes and improvements, but also some definite regressions too. To start, some of the classic characters got some gameplay changes to reflect their newer games. Mario's Spin Special, for example, is now replaced by a chargeable flood attack. This game is not necessarily slower than Melee, but it's definitely floatier. This is a very low-hanging fruit of a complaint, but it's a legitimate complaint. Melee felt incredibly tight and fast, and this just feels less so, kind of. In Melee, every character was nimble. In Brawl, the characters are still fast and it's still fun to play, but there's just this loss of weightiness to some of the gameplay. That being said, you get used to it after a while. Something you don't ever get used to is the new tripping mechanic. At any given time, your character has a small chance to trip. Tripping causes them to completely fall over and become immobile for a moment. I don't think anyone knows the exact reason for the addition of this mechanic, but most agree it was a pretty bad choice. But not everything is bad. This game added a bunch of new characters and items and stages, and it was also the first game to include third-party, non-Nintendo characters. This game retained everyone from Melee except for Young Link, Dr. Mario, Pichu, Roy, and Mewtwo. Everyone removed was a clone character except for Mewtwo though. The new characters are King Dedede, Meta Knight, Wario, Ike, Wolf, Lucas, Diddy Kong, Pit, Captain Olimar, Rob, Toon Link, Solid Snake, and Sonic the Hedgehog. The game also added in the Pokemon trainer who calls out Squirtle, Ivysaur, and Charizard, and you can switch between them in the same way as Zelda and Sheik switched around with their down special. The game also technically added in Zero Suit Samus, who is playable after you use Samus's Final Smash. Speaking of, the biggest new gameplay addition is the Final Smash. At random, an item called a Smash Ball will appear on the screen during fights. Damaging the Smash Ball enough breaks it and gives your character a fiery glow. If you stand still and press the special move button, your character does a powerful ultimate move called a Final Smash. Every character's Final Smash is unique and a huge nod to their lore or franchise. Another big addition is assist trophies. They work sort of like Pokeballs, but instead of grabbing a Pokeball and throwing it, simply grabbing an assist trophy summons a random character from tons of different franchises who assist you on the screen, sort of like Pokemon. They don't always just deal damage though. Sometimes they do things like obstruct the screen, which can technically inconvenience the person who summoned the trophy too. Either way, these are really cool and a super awesome way of adding in way more series representation outside of just stages and playable characters. They also return in every future game, same with the Smash Balls and Final Smashes. This game also brings back a bunch of stages from Melee, and they're all in their own Melee stages menu, which is super cool. There's also now a swimming mechanic on some stages with water now, where your character can swim in the water for a short time before falling through and getting KO'd. In previous games, you just fell straight through the water into a KO. There's also some more interactivity in stages, which is a trend the future games have. In the WarioWare stage, for example, there's certain periods where you have to perform certain micro-game style actions. Performing these properly can reward you with buffs. Brawl also introduced multi-part items. The way this works is a piece of an item will fall on the stage at random and you can pick it up and hold it. If you're knocked around too much, you'll drop your pieces. However, if you can collect all 3 pieces, you get to use a super powerful item. In Brawl, it's the Dragoon from Kirby's Air Ride. Collecting all 3 Dragoon parts gives you an on-screen crosshair that you have a limited window of time to fire at your opponents while they try to avoid it. Oh, and remember how Melee had those grabbable trophies all over the place? This game has that and music CDs, which unlocks tracks you can listen to in the soundtrack and play during your multiplayer matches. And before I move on, I need to say that this is the first Super Smash Bros. Game to allow you to use multiple controller types. You can use the Wii Remote by itself, the Wii Remote with a nunchuck attachment, the Wii Classic controller, and even a GameCube controller. So in my opinion, this game was the first to establish the general visual style of the Super Smash Bros. Game menus. Everything now is a big selectable screen button, and there's little to no symmetry, but it's still super nice to look at. The modes in Super Smash Bros. Brawl are the group modes, solo modes, Nintendo Wi-Fi connection, vault, options, and data. The group modes are Brawl, Rules, Special Brawl, Rotation, Tourney, and Names. Brawl is the standard versus mode. Nothing is really changed from Melee though. The bonus mode, however, is totally gone, so your options are just time, stock, and coin battles. You can, as always, set up the rules to your liking too. Special Brawl is sort of like Special Melee, but way more expanded and customizable. You can now create wacky gameplay changes, including this nightmare scenario I've created where the game speed is fast, the characters are tiny, and the camera is fixed super far away. Rotation mode is new and is essentially a way to have more than 4 players play against each other. It's a novel mode that I have played before, but I didn't get the chance to this time because I didn't have a second player when I was recording footage for this. Tournament mode is back, but it also requires at least 2 players. This to me is a downgrade from Melee where you could have CPU players fight each other, but it's fine since you could just technically do your own tournament without using the tournament mode. Moving on from the Brawl modes, the solo modes are Classic, the Subspace Emissary, Events, Stadium, and Training. Classic mode is similar to previous games, but every stage now has a theme. The first stage is Zelda, for example, and the character on the stage is always a Zelda character, but not always the same Zelda character. The same goes for the rest of the stages too. Completing this mode has another on-rails shooting kind of thing, but instead of seeing the real credits, you instead see a list of unlocked characters, items, and trophies. In this one, the only bonus mode is Target Smash. There are still multi-man fights, but they're only against the standard enemies. At the end, you fight Master Hand, and depending on your difficulty and how quickly you clear it, you can also fight Crazy Hand. The next solo mode is Events, which returns from Melee. This time, a second player can actually join you for the event, which is pretty cool. I also think the events in this game are a bit more novel than the first because of the expanded character roster. That being said, they're both really good and worth playing. The stadium returns in this game, including Target Smash, Home Run Contest, and now a bundled-in multi-man Brawl. Target Smash and Brawl is kind of a departure from previous games. Instead of every character having their own Target Smash, there's now 5 Target Smash stages ranging from level 1 to level 5. This means that no matter who you choose, the stage is the same and there are a total of 5 stages. Home Run Contest returns and functions largely the same as Melee's. This time though, like in events, you can bring in a partner if you want. In fact, I think some of the best strategies require a partner. The main difference in the Target Smash in this game is that the platform you're on now kind of has a barrier that stops the sandbag from immediately sliding off. Of course, the barrier will still break if you hit it too much, but it does allow for some more freedom of knocking the sandbag around. Multi-man mode is back and it's almost exactly the same as Melee's. However, the enemies are now called alloys, and at random times, normal enemies will also have a chance of spawning in. Finally, it's time to talk about the Subspace Emissary. This mode is, in my opinion, Brawl's premier mode, and the first time Super Smash Bros. Decided to make an actual story mode. The difficulties range from easy to intense, and you can have up to 2 players in this mode. Subspace Emissary has actual full-motion cutscenes and just kind of oozes style. The mode is broken down into cutscenes, fights, boss fights, and playable levels with smaller, less focused fights. The cutscenes, of course, just kind of explain what's going on. Kind of. The story in this mode is kind of wacky. I guess people are turned into trophies, and you have to kind of save them from being trophies, sort of. There's this big dark energy thing and a darkness gun that turns people into trophies, and Rayquaza attacks for some reason. I mean, I'm a Kingdom Hearts fan, so stuff like this that barely makes sense is right up my alley, but I'm still kinda lost. The cutscenes are still really good though, and really high production value for the time. Sure, the story is strange, but it's still pretty entertaining. As you progress and free people from their trophy forms, you can add them to your team, and in turn, unlock them for play in other modes. For the record, you can also unlock the characters via traditional means as well. This is just more of a straightforward way of doing it. Something I love about this mode is how every time a character is introduced, they almost always get their own moment. Their name appears across the screen when you get control of them, and it's just such a cool feeling because it gets you familiar with every character on the roster. The playable levels are like big platforming segments, sort of reminiscent of the adventure mode from Melee. In fact, this basically is just a big, massive, expanded Melee adventure mode with cutscenes and way higher production value. In this mode, there's also tons of branching paths and hidden stuff you wouldn't normally find. A lot of these paths also include extra trophies and stickers. The stickers are kind of like a simplified version of trophies that you can equip to your characters to increase their stats. Every sticker has its own stat boost, and the boosts range from just overall stat increases to increases of effectiveness with certain items or moves. There's a bunch of fights against enemies you would normally never see in any other mode that are arguably generic characters made for this game, and while the number of enemies does give the mode variety, I imagine some people may not like that these aren't always Nintendo callbacks or anything, but you do still get to explore places like Meta Knight's ship and Skyworld. There's also recurring appearances from various villains, so it's not like it's all generic enemies. I think it's a fun mode, and it's really the best part about Brawl in my opinion. Once you've unlocked every character, you unlock All-Star mode, and it functions largely the same as it did in Melee. There is an aesthetic difference though. Next, we'll move on to the Vault. The Vault contains the trophies and stickers, stage builder, album, challenges, replays, masterpieces, and chronicles. Trophies and stickers has the trophy gallery, trophy hoard, coin launcher, sticker album, and sticker center. The trophy gallery works pretty much the same as Melee's. The trophy hoard also works kind of like the collection in Melee, but this time you can now do a little diorama of your trophies that you place manually. From there, you can actually take screenshots for your gallery. My favorite mode here is the coin launcher though. It's a neat little mode where you can use the coins you've accumulated from other modes and shoot them at this kind of arcade-styled game, where little enemies will pop out in patterns and shooting them earns you bonus coins and sometimes stickers. At random intervals, new trophies will pop out and hitting them a few times unlocks them. Occasionally, a missile will fly at you and you have to launch coins at it to destroy it. Other times, holes will open up in the ground that eat your coins, or these big balls will roll out onto the field and stop your coins from moving entirely if they get hit by them. I love Coin Launcher, and I racked up an obscene amount of time playing this mode when I was younger. The sticker gallery is just like the trophy gallery, gallery, but for stickers. There aren't any cool descriptions here though, just the name of the sticker and the stat bonus it provides. The Sticker Center mode allows you to arrange your stickers on a big page and take photos. It's kind of like a slightly downgraded trophy diorama. Next up in the vault is the Stage Builder. This mode is wild. You choose a size, a background, and what music you want to play. From there, you can make whatever kind of stage you want. Everything is laid out on a grid, and while you can't go super crazy in this, it's still a super novel concept to make some stages to add variety. There is, of course, a budget, so you can't make the stages ridiculously big and complicated, but the budget's high enough that you can make some pretty neat things. Next up in the vault is Gallery mode, where you can view the snapshots you've taken in-game. After that is Challenges. So as you play Brawl, doing various things unlocks challenges, which can unlock a multitude of things, including trophies, stages, music, and even some masterpieces, which I'll get into. You also have the option to force complete challenges using the Golden Hammer, but you only get a limited number of Golden Hammers. Challenges return in every future Super Smash Bros. Game. Replays mode allows you to view your saved replays, as you'd probably expect. The final mode I'll talk about in the vault is the Masterpieces. Masterpieces are time-limited demos of various games throughout Nintendo's history, and all of them are directly related to the characters who appear in the game. These demos range from NES games all the way through Nintendo 64 games. Once you launch the Masterpiece, you play for the designated time of the trial, and then it automatically kicks you back to the Masterpieces menu. Unfortunately, there's no way to save any progress or anything, so you can't just relaunch the games and continue. Something I loved doing when I was younger was seeing how far I could get in Star Fox 64. I could usually make it to the first boss on the hard route. The final mode I want to mention is the Nintendo Wi-Fi connection mode. I was unable to play this mode for this video, however I can tell you that it was the first time you could play Super Smash Bros. Online, and it was just okay. There were a lot of latency and connection issues, which made it almost impossible to have a fight where both players weren't at some kind of disadvantage. That being said, I am happy Nintendo got on board with online play. There's one last thing I want to mention, a little Easter egg that tons of people know about in Brawl, but a ton of people might also not know about. If you use Snake's down taunt really fast on the Shadow Moses stage, Snake has a codec call where they talk about the opponent. It's a super neat thing that I'll bet tons of people missed, but I love little things like this. It's like the mother of character-specific interactions. Super Smash Bros. Brawl was a bit of a downgrade in the gameplay department for a lot of people, but it also introduced a lot of series staples like final smashes, the introduction of third-party characters, and stuff like changing the music on a per-stage basis. Brawl's shortcomings are easily negated by the stuff it does right, and every time I revisit it, I always have a good time. So this video was supposed to be one big video, but it was starting to get a bit longer than I was comfortable with. That, coupled with some snags in the recording process, meant that I had to choose whether or not to release one super long video or cut it into two parts. As you can probably tell, I went with the latter option. That being said, the extra time means that I can put in some extra time to make part 2 even better than it was going to be, since my technical issues are finally solved. Look forward to seeing part 2 in the next few days. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. If you do like this kind of content, please consider subscribing and liking the video. Also, let me know what you want to see me play next in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a fantastic day.